The Difference Maker: Making Your Attitude Your Greatest Asset by John C. Maxwell. A critical review by Eric McCune. If you ask around, most people will agree that your attitude plays a critical role in your life. There tends to be a common misperception, though, that your attitude is everything. Many motivational speakers will drill into the audience that with a good attitude, there's nothing you can't do. Basically, they state that if you simply believe it, then you can achieve it. That's where this book comes in. John Maxwell made it his goal to disprove that idea. In The Difference Maker, Maxwell states that attitude isn't everything, but it is the one thing that can make a difference in your life. That statement translates into his thesis, which is that although your attitude cannot do everything for you, a great attitude can set you apart from others and help you face any obstacle that may become apparent in your life. Essentially, you cannot completely rely on your attitude in order to be successful, since there are many aspects of your life that attitude cannot substitute for. You may have a great attitude, but it cannot make up for lack of competence, experience, and skill, or the ability to grow as a person. You also cannot change set facts about certain situations, no matter how optimistic you are. However, when it comes down to it, your attitude is highly important and it can give you an upper hand in many situations. People with great attitudes stand apart from those without them. With great attitude, you can change your perspective and approach to life so that you can face challenges and not be discouraged by setbacks. Good attitudes also improve relationships with other people. Nobody likes to be around a person who is bitter or pessimistic. If you're looking for a simple and easy to understand guide to what your attitude can and cannot do for you, this book is the way to go. The way Maxwell organizes his points is very logical and it builds up to his thesis. Each chapter deals with a specific point of attitude, starting with an explanation of what your attitude is and where it comes from. Afterwards, he answers questions that the reader might have, such as, "You say my attitude isn't everything. When is it not enough? If it is the difference maker, how does it make that difference? And, finally, if my attitude can make that much of a difference, how do I develop a good one?" After answering those questions, the book then leads up to 5 common obstacles people meet and how you can face them with your attitude that you have developed. These 5 obstacles are ones that Maxwell believes are the most common challenges to your attitude. They are discouragement, problems, change, fear, and failure. The progression of the chapters is similar to the thought process that a reader might have when he or she is thinking about attitude. And because of this organization, the content really clicks for the reader. Maxwell starts out by refuting the popular belief that attitude is everything, and then progresses to chapters that discuss where your attitude can make a difference. And as a result of this, his thesis becomes clear to those reading the book. In order to make the reader understand and accept his thesis, Maxwell uses many anecdotes, short stories, or examples from history. After explaining the point he is trying to make, Maxwell almost always includes one of those pieces of evidence so that the reader can see what he is saying is valid. An example from history that Maxwell uses is Viktor Frankl. Frankl was 25 when he was sent to a concentration camp in 1942 during the Holocaust. He experienced unbelievable tragedies such as the loss of his entire family. However, while in the camp, Frankl realized that he could choose his attitude and use it to his advantage. He never gave up and he used his attitude to battle those 5 obstacles of attitude mentioned earlier. In the end, he survived the Holocaust and many years later began to teach what he had learned. Along with the examples like Frankl, Maxwell uses everyday events that readers can relate to in order to prove his thesis. Applying for a job or your company making job cuts are 2 relatable ones that he uses. Maxwell also incorporates commonly seen things such as children's stories or Peanuts comics as examples. For the most part, I found that it worked because you can see exactly how the rule he is discussing is applied if you accept it. As a result, I thought that Maxwell was able to prove his thesis. When the reader can really see how these rules based on your attitude work in the real world, they become more aware of them, and they reach the conclusion that what Maxwell is saying is true. For readers, one place where Maxwell really makes his point is where he discusses what your attitude cannot do for you. Many people believe that in almost all situations, you can basically rely completely on your attitude. However, Maxwell gives the example of a man applying for a job. This man has a great attitude, but is not very competent, and he lacks the experience that the other candidates applying for the same job have. Even though the other candidates might not have a great attitude, or attitude as good as the first man, they have the competence and skill that the job requires, and therefore the job goes to them because they'd be able to complete it more effectively. In contrast, if the man with a great attitude had the same level of experience and competence as the other candidates, his good attitude would have made the difference, and he would have gotten the job instead. So even though your attitude can't make up for everything, it can really set you apart from others. From the evidence he uses to prove his thesis, you can tell that Maxwell's intended audience is working-age people. Many of his anecdotes or examples are related to life at the office and what your attitude can and cannot do for you in work. Even with a great attitude, if you are not competent, experienced, or willing to grow as a person, you are unlikely to be chosen as an employee or move forward in your job. But if you have the same qualifications as other contestants for a job, but a much better attitude, the odds are in your favor. Despite the fact that this book is being written for those working with jobs, the content can be applied to almost any age. For children and teenagers, school is our job, and attitude is just as important there. You may go to school with a good attitude and be an encouragement to other people, but without dedication and continuous effort in your classes, you cannot succeed as a student. However, if you use your attitude to your benefit to change aspects such as your perspective on school, school can become a place where you can excel and stand apart from your peers. This book can even be applied to areas that aren't related to job work or schoolwork. It can be applied to sports. You may have a good attitude, but without skill or the ability to grow as a player, you cannot succeed in sport. With a great attitude in sports, you can build relationships with other members of your team and not be held back by any of those 5 obstacles, which are fear, failure, change, discouragement, or problems. Those obstacles appear very often when playing in sports. So, despite the fact that the target audience is working adults, the book remains valuable because it is applicable to many age ranges. Like many of his books, such as the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the chapters are short and to the point. In The Difference Maker, Maxwell doesn't include laws like in many of his other books. Instead, he organizes his points into lists to show the different steps or parts of his topic. For example, when he discusses how you can turn your attitude into your greatest asset, he lists 6 simple steps that you can take. He also lists 7 factors that contribute to your attitude and ways that your attitude does and does not help. This listing can be helpful to the reader because it makes the content easy to learn, understand, and remember. The downside to this system of listing and explaining is that sometimes it can seem like what Maxwell is saying is too oversimplified. When he makes the process of changing your attitude look short, the reader may start to wonder if it sounds too easy and therefore unrealistic. If you picked up this book hoping to learn how your attitude can specifically benefit you as a leader, you may have ended up disappointed. While The Difference Maker touches a wide variety of situations in work and life where you can use your attitude to your advantage, it never zeroes in specifically on leadership. Readers looking for that information will still have many unanswered questions as to how this can specifically be applied to leading. If someone was looking for a book on attitude and leadership, another book by Maxwell would be helpful to check out. Attitude 101, What Every Leader Needs to Know by John C. Maxwell specifically deals with leadership and your attitude, and what in your attitude determines whether you succeed or fail as a leader. Overall, This book is a short read with lots of valuable information. The organization builds up to the thesis, and the specific examples Maxwell uses back up what he says. If someone were to research the topic of attitude and how it can be used, this book would be a fantastic place to start. However, since it is so short, I would recommend using not only this book, but other ones by Maxwell or other leadership authors to further understanding. Maxwell has been a speaker and teacher about various leadership qualities for many years, and he has written many books about attitude, such as Attitude 101, The Power of Attitude, and The Winning Attitude. From the studies of attitude and many years of experience of how it works in leadership and life, I believe that Maxwell has become an expert in this topic, and what he says in The Difference Maker has a lot of value.